I think when the history of this COVID-19 and certainly Lebanon and the refugee situation is written up, the most shameful chapter will be entitled "And Where Were the NGOs?" Kieran, I'm not exaggerating. For the families that we deal with and the other families who are living in the camp and the neighbourhoods in which these kids live, if they live in a neighbourhood, they live in a room or 2 rooms or something like that. But in both of those situations, we are the only people that have been there to provide any sort of help. Obviously, at the beginning, our focus was very much on English, Arabic and maths worksheets 3 times a week at levels 1, 2 and 3. But that has been superseded now by really humanitarian aid in terms of food, because the Syrians are the only ones. They're not the only ones suffering here in Lebanon. Everybody is suffering because we have, not only do we have corona, but we've had a social revolution since last October. We're facing in the country the biggest financial crisis since the end of the Civil War in 1990. And it's very hard to see. We're coming to the end of Ramadan now, and things have been relatively quiet because of that. And then when that's over, I would fully expect, and I'd be surprised otherwise, if there aren't people on the streets, if there aren't riots, if there isn't violence. And and the reason for all of that, I should say, is mass unemployment and hunger among the Lebanese themselves. The government are trying to do something, and local municipalities are trying to do something in terms of feeding them, but it only goes as far as them. It doesn't include Syrian refugees, of which there are over 1 million in the country. So doing that has become our number one priority, and that's followed by education. So it has changed our focus somewhat and changed how we spend our money and things like that. But it's a needs must. We have to do it. One of the really difficult things when we started to give out the food was, like, we were giving out the food to the families of the students that we teach. And that was kind of all right in some of the neighbourhoods where people were living, because they're bigger, more, urban settings. But like when you go into a refugee camp, it's all very small and it's all very local. And the refugee camp from which our kids come, there are 23 families. But we were only educating kids from about 13 of those families. So the other 10 families were getting nothing. And we realised very quickly we're handing out parcels of food, and then the women from the other families were saying, what about us? And we kind of said, well, we only can feed those that we're teaching. And then they started to really beg, and it was really, really very, very difficult. So we made the decision, look, it's a confined area. There are 23 families. Let's just provide food to them. And now it didn't stop there, because then people from other camps heard that we were going in and providing food, and then they want it, and we have to draw a complete line. And and try and talk to the mothers and fathers and say, please don't encourage people to come in, because we can't give it, and it's not going to be good for you if you're inviting people in saying, William and his crew will help you, whereas William and his crew can't help you. We're not the United Nations. We're not UNICEF. We're not Save the Children. We're a small, tiny organisation who are here to provide education for a niche market, street kids. And now we're pulled in, because of circumstances, we're pulled into this to feed. One of the kind of, I don't want it all to sound so grim, because one of the really nice things that has happened as a result of all of this, and it was an unintended consequence, was one of our volunteer workers is a Danish woman. Her husband is an observer with the UN. And so anyway, long story short, she got in contact with me, heard what I was doing, and she does a thing called environmental therapy, which is really introducing the world around you, be it the sea or the mountains or everything else in between, the sky and the land and plants and trees and flowers, to kids. And at a kid's level, it should be all based through play and engagement and things like that. And our intention was to grow a garden in the school, but COVID saw an end to that. So then we thought, well, the same principle in terms of education. If the kids can't come to school, we go to them. And then we thought, so how will we bring the environmental therapy to the kids? Where we thought, we'll bring the garden to the camps. So what we did was we identified areas outside the tents, and all our families are involved in agriculture, so they're all planting and harvesting fruit and vegetables. And we said, look, if you guys, fill those areas in terms of in front of the tent with soil and make a bed, we'll bring the plants and we'll get the kids and ourselves to plant it. So yesterday we completed our third garden.
Wonderful.
And and you know what? I'm really proud of it because it's so simple. And when I go in there now, and like when we were going in yesterday, the kids were so delighted. Oh my God, they were right out to the truck bringing the stuff in, and they all wanted to help, and they all want to plant, and even the stuff that was done last week and the week before is coming out settling, and they're all watering it, and they're saying, oh, so and so was pulling the flowers off the, but they were deadheading, and like I had told them how to do, and the others were thinking, and they were wrecking.
They were destroying the place.
Yeah, and they say, no, that's the right thing to do, and you take it off, and then a new one will come, and etc. And you must water it, but water it in the evening after the sun has gone down, not in the midst of the day, and all this sort of stuff. And it really has helped, and it has turned kind of like what was, just a very bleak sort of a place, even in the sunshine, into something just a little bit more tolerable. And like when I think of the camp now, I think immediately of the flower beds in front of the tents rather than the tents themselves, and it just lifts your heart that little bit.
Isn't it amazing what something very relatively small can do in terms of a difficult situation to turn around?
And it's an awareness of just the importance of our environment and nature in our lives. And because I know Marianne, the volunteer, when she would start talking about it initially to me, I thought, oh, it's a cracked idea. This won't work for our volunteers, And but as she spoke about it, my memories were, swimming at the slip in Clontarf as a young boy, sailing down in Clontarf Yacht and Boat Club, and then my summers in Donabate, we had a small chalet there. And it was all kind of like, but the more I thought of it, my memories were around nature. Yeah. They were around the sea and swimming and, the things that we do as coastal people. And it was, and of course, when I think of it, it makes me feel happy. And the same is true of those simple flower beds. It just makes people happy, and it lifts all of us. It's a tide that lifts all boats.